All right, we sat down earlier with Mr. Josh Waters from Political Strategies. It sounded like this. All right, folks, joining us now, we've got Mr. Josh Waters. He's from Political Strategies. Josh has been on the program for the last couple of weeks, so you guys obviously know who he is. Josh, welcome back, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Paul.
All right, so we've got some interesting developments this week. I mean, it's kind of been a big week, but we also want to note that things are winding down. We got about 2 more weeks left, according to. Well, what do you know about that? Is that set in stone? That 2 weeks?
I don't know. I don't think it's set in stone. Senator President Pro Temps mentioned yesterday they wanted to be out on the 31st. That would be the last Friday of the month. So next week, and then one more week, and it might be over for this session.
Yeah. There's still some stuff on the table that we don't know how things are going to come out. I mean, for example, we have the internet sales tax. And if you go to conduitforaction.org, folks, they have an article up, which is, I guess, the scorecard in review. So everything up to date. And you know, does it grow government? Does it increase dependency on government? Does it spend money we don't have? And so, Josh, what do we know about the sales tax increase on the internet? That still is being held up in committee.
That's right. It's still being worked on. The latest I heard is that the Democrats are still trying to work out some type of compromise on an amendment to direct this money somewhere. And outside of that, I'm not sure how it's going to get out of committee. So that's something we'll have to just keep tabs on. It didn't run this week, so we'll just have to keep following. I
think it's safe to say that the people want it to get out. They really do. There is the will to do this. It's just whether or not the compromise will be allowing the Democrat Party to direct where the new revenue is spent. And I've been saying I think we're under a budget crisis. And so I don't think that that'll necessarily fly too well. I think they want to have autonomy where it goes.
Yeah, and there's I think even more push for to use this money, if it passes, to use it for roads. There's been Republican legislators, that have mentioned that several times. There's at least one bill I know that
they're
pushes
trying to do
for that. But when you start, they're just not having much success combining these bills for various different reasons. So there's a lot of people out there, I think, who want to direct this money to a specific place, and where that's going to go, and if that means this doesn't pass, I think remains to be seen.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about another tax increase, the gas tax. It failed this week. This is a bill that was scored, obviously, in a negative light. Were you surprised that it failed the way it did?
I'm not sure if I was surprised it failed. I think they might have been surprised it failed, but I think the whip count going in that it was going to fail, and they didn't have the votes. I'm surprised it ran already as quickly as it did without.
Well, it's like we said, time is running out.
Yeah,
that's
true. So I'm not so much surprised it failed. I'm actually a little worried it didn't fail worse. There was 38 votes for it. I think there was 13 or 14 Democrats who either voted present or didn't vote who could vote for it next time. So
you think they bring this thing up and they try to push it through again?
I think they will. The governor has said this is the measure he supports, moving this, seeing it to the people to raise taxes. So I think the only way to ensure taxes do not go up is to make sure that this does not pass. Yeah, that's the only way.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I know, there were some reports, though, some lobbyists, they thought that this was going to pass this week. Did you hear something similar? There was seems like I heard that there were some surprised individuals. Maybe the highway department was surprised that it failed as well. They thought maybe they had the votes.
Yeah, I think they might have been surprised. I was in the chamber when that vote took place, and some people left the chamber that day. I don't know what all entities they represent or interest, but there was at least one offhand comment, basically surprised that it failed. So.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You have mixed messages because you talk to Democrats and they say, "Oh no, it was dead on arrival." I've talked to one that said that they knew that it was dead on arrival. The Democrats want something in order to get it passed, and so we're going to wait around and see what else they come up with. But I got a feeling with the time running out, like I said, we got essentially 2 weeks left. Right? If we're talking about all the next week and then the next week, right?
That's right. If they get out on the 31st, you got tomorrow and 2 weeks. So,
tomorrow and 2 weeks left in the session. So it's been a wild ride and a lot of revenue generation that has already occurred and a lot more to come. Let's talk about this morning, Josh. You were in the Senate State Agencies Committee meeting. There was a lot of legislation that I feel like was great. Brian King successfully passed his Medicaid expansion. I'm sorry, his Medicaid disclosure transparency rule. Sorry, there was a little bit of muscle memory there. Anytime you say Medicaid, you say expansion. But this was actually a good bill that would require legislators to disclose ties that they have with Medicaid entities, any money that they're getting personally, and it actually passed out of committee. And I was amazed that it did, but I think it goes to show you the kind of how the legislature even has been galvanized with John Woods in the news, Micah Neal in the news, and even current Senator Jake Files that's involved in stuff that doesn't look good. So I think that's a win for the people of Arkansas. Yeah,
I would agree with you. I think this is a transparency bill that would basically just show with this industry that Senator King talked about it. I think almost $8 billion appropriation bill. It's 27% of the Arkansas general revenues went to Health and Human Services funding. When this industry has such an impact on our state, I think it's fair to let people know, hey, these these entities, are somehow associated with these specific legislators, and at least get the word out there. It doesn't necessarily mean they've done anything illegal, or they'll be left up for the public to decide how they feel on that.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It's just about disclosing. That's all it is. There's no penalty or anything like that if you're making a bunch of money from a one of the examples is Brian King has cows, and if somebody shows up to his farm and pays $50,000 for a cow, you're going to have to disclose that if they're a Medicaid entity, and they should. Also in that committee, and this is one you actually testified for, is the bill to end special elections. This one is a huge victory for all of us who are busy working while your local superintendent is making sure all the teachers turn out to raise property taxes on everybody when nobody else is like, oh, well, it's 4th of July weekend. Let's have a vote to raise taxes. This bill passed, and you testified for it. I thought it was a great bill.
Yes, that's right. It's Senate Bill 723 by Senator Dave Wallace, and the House sponsor is Justin Gonzalez. And I think it's just a very common-sense bill. I had 2 points. It saves money, and it increases voter turnout. It saves money first because these special elections, these cities have to pay for them to put them on. And I went through a list of different cities, Jonesboro being included, Fayetteville, Searcy, Texarkana, who has spent, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on these special elections when they could just have it when people are already going to the polls in the primary election or the general election. And the second thing, it increases voter turnout. According to Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, ACRE, they put out a report, and they actually studied this, and 19% is the voter turnout rate over the 1981 to 2016. 19% voter turnout in a special election, 44% in a general election, and I can't remember the exact number of a primary election. It was more than the special election, a little less than the general election. So what this bill would basically say is any of these local issues, local tax increase, local ordinance they want to pass to the people or refer to the people, those have to be voted on either in the primary election or general election in an election year, or in an off election year in May or November. So I think like I said, it does 2 things. It saves money for the taxpayer, and it increases voter turnout so more people are aware of the election and can have their voice heard.
Yeah, and of course we had the Municipal League against this, and others. They were saying that this is, taking away local control, and it's such a joke to me because local control is best exemplified when you have the maximum amount of people turn out to vote. That's what local control is. Local control is not the superintendents or the mayor or the people that are already in power getting all of their friends to only show up on Election Day. That's not local control. One of the aspects of local control, in my opinion, would be the democratic idea of majority rule, and we get that as long as no one else's rights are infringed on. You get the majority's will by having elections, and it really comes down to the consent of the governed and what is the best way to get the most accurate poll from the people. And the more people that you have participating, the more you can say we have a mandate, we have the consent of the governed. That's why special elections are bad, and they've been abused. People have been manipulating populations to get more money from those that don't turn out and vote, who are out there, working hard and they don't have time to do this. But they do know, hey, once every year, or every November we have an election, or once every 2 years we have an election, whatever the case. They know when they're supposed to turn out and vote, and so I was surprised that it passed, quite frankly, but it did pretty overwhelmingly.
Yes, the local control argument I hadn't really thought about. Some senator mentioned that. And kind of pushing back, and I don't think this undermines local control. Local communities will still be able to vote on whatever they want to. If they need to vote on an ordinance to go into place, if they need to vote for a millage increase, if they need to vote for a tax increase, or if they want to decrease the taxes. I don't see those votes coming very often, but if they want to do that, they're going to have every right that they have now. And so it's not going to take that power away from them to do that. All this says is, if you have these elections, let's do it I think more fair and let the most people decide. Is local control 19% of voter turnout, saying what they want, or is it 44%? Which is better?
Yeah, so you're saying 19% turnout on special elections and 44% on a general election.
That's right.
It's and there's even higher turnout than special elections during primaries. So you could always put it during a primary if you wanted to as well, right? I mean, that's what that bill says, correct?
Yeah, it could be either the primary date or the general election date.
Yeah.
So and then an off election year. So in 2017 we don't have a primary or general election. It could be had in May or in November. And so this is still going to give them the opportunity. They can run the same election twice a year, every year if they want.
I'm glad that this bill is being brought to the forefront, because what I want is, I want to hear from the superintendents that are going to be criticizing this. I want to hear from the people who, because they're all of a sudden going to say that they're from local control, but the reality is they don't think they're ever going to get another tax increase passed. That's what the reality is. And if they're honest with themselves, they have to admit that they're being dishonest because they're trying to manipulate the people of Arkansas into getting more money out of them. And they know they'll have a harder time doing that if things are held in the primary or the general election. And that's...
I agree. It comes down to money with most every other bill. And at the end of the day, when a special election is held, it happens more often and substantially more often that a tax increase passes. If it's held in a primary or general election,
it fails.
It fails more often. So at the end of the day, it's going to be about money.
I know this is maybe ascribing worse motives, but if you ask the superintendents, most of them say, do you want 100% voter turnout on this millage increase, or would you rather have 15? I promise you, they're going to say, I'd rather have 15. If they were honest with themselves, they'd say, I'd rather have 15, because that would mean they get what they want, not what the majority of the people want. Let's see. Do we have anything else? Hang on one second. I had a list made. Just in general, I want to remind everybody that the scorecard in review. Is there anything on there, Josh, that you want to go over?
I guess one other thing that's going to be coming up for a vote that we've been following is Josh Miller has a bill that would basically freeze the Medicaid expansion population going forward. It would not put a cap. It would say those who are on there now, we're going to freeze it for those who are on there now. And I think it's a great bill, and we've talked about it, why it's good. It especially with what's coming at the federal level, we don't know exactly what's going to happen there. So it really provides an opportunity for Arkansas to say, hey, we've already gone way over our estimates for the amount of people who we ever thought would be on this program. Let's freeze it. We're not going to kick anyone off. They can reapply. Let's freeze it and kind of get a hard number, and then whatever the federal government does with the Obamacare at the federal level, we can be in a lot better position to react to that. Right now it's kind of hard because every month you get a new report saying what the number is. It goes, I think it went down once, but every other time it always goes up. So that's a bill that has not run in the Senate, so that's where it's going to go next. It's going to go to the Senate Public Health Committee, and it hasn't run there.
I think it was supposed to run. That was supposed to run this week. But Senator Scott Flippo has the flu, and he's going to be a key yes vote to freeze this thing. You can guarantee.
Yeah, a strong conservative vote from Scott Flippo is needed.
Yeah, and he's got to be there, and he was sick, pretty bad illness. So we hope he recovers quickly. The number of that bill from Representative Josh Miller, HB 1465, freeze Obamacare expansion, which again would freeze dependency on government, which is one of the economic freedom filter's key points: less dependency on government. Then, of course, let's see. You can go look at the gas tax. I don't know. I don't know. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
They're going to have to really push the internet sales tax and the gas. They're going to have to really ram this stuff through. I just wonder. A lot of times you want to hold the ball, run out the clock, and ram everything through. That may be what they try to do here. I'm not sure, though. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, Josh Waters, I appreciate it, sir, from Political Strategies. Feel free to go to conduitforaction.org, folks, and check out the session-to-date review of legislative scorecards that Josh is compiling. Josh, you do a great job as always.
Thanks for having me, Paul, and I appreciate your listeners staying engaged on these important bills down here.
Absolutely. Folks, got to go. Back in a minute.